Um, yeah, good afternoon, my name is Julius, and my factual programming concept is young and helpless, and the question I want to pose to the audience through my documentary is it easy being a young adult in London nowadays? Yeah, so what is young and helpless? Basically, in 2010, a demonstration was constructed by a social group called the NUS, the National Union of Students, which was based on the concept of broken promises, which when Nick Clegg, the Lib Dem party leader, was running for the election, he promised a lot of cuts and making it more easier for students to go uni, but obviously with the coalition government, a lot of those promises have been broken. So the National Union of Students ran a series of protests and public demonstrations over the UK, pinpointed in London. It was the first one was the largest in Britain, which supported what the Labour first proposed, which was Teaching and Higher Education Act in 1998, which basically meant to improve teaching standards. The protest held in opposition to planned spending cuts to further education and increase the cap on tuition fees by the Conservative Lib Dem coalition. Although the media widely stigmatised this protest, it passed off peacefully, ending with a rally in Kennington. Basically, my programme concept is, as the subject is something myself and the crowd can relate to, I feel my content will be strong and a feasible study. I'll be trying to obtain opinions from classmates, teachers, head teachers, TAs, and the local authority to get a variety of concepts and ideas about the subject. I feel that my programme will be feasible because I'm a part of the target audience, so I'll be able to give, as well as other people's insight, I'll be able to give my insight, and I feel like interviewees will not be as hard to come across because basically my interviewees can be like my classmates or any friends because we're all in that same social group. Basically my view is I disagree with the raising uni fees as it discourages students to attempt to further their education, and as well as this, there's not enough apprenticeships around as compensation for this. So it makes me feel like where are these students going after college? In some cases, they'll just end up maybe being a retail worker, or in some severe cases, resorting to crime. My target audience, my primary audience as a subject, my subject is quite exclusive and direct. I'm aiming for the social occupation class D students aged 16 to 20. Although this is the case, I will also try to get an opinion from like quite upper class students, those that might not be affected by these races, to see how they feel on the race. Also, these, as a part of my primary audience, I'll be looking for aspirers, as I feel that uni is not really a destination, it's just a stepping stone to get into the dream job you want to get to. So, and then mainstreamers, because obviously university is quite an industrial mainstream way of youth in London, which is like education, then you work, then obviously you retire, then die. That's like the mainstream, conventional way students live. And then my secondary audience will be the older generation, such as parents of all social classes, as I'll be able to get views on the fact that their children, because obviously their children are the future of this world, so I feel that they play a contributory role to my documentary as well. Also, I would like to get professionals in the education system, as I would also like to find out how they feel about cuts and raises in prices of university, and do they actually agree with the laws that are being passed. Also, I'll be trying to get younger year teachers, such as like college teachers, secondary and primary, because they may feel that with all these factors that are making university and further studying so hard, do they feel like they're wasting their time? Because it might get to a stage where it may, like some schools may not have students that are going to uni because of all the raises. So do teachers feel like they're wasting their time with their teaching? I constructed a SWOT analysis of my idea. Strengths. As myself, the documenter, is in the midst of all this hysteria, I already have an in-depth knowledge of the subject, so I'll be able to avoid any false information that maybe a professional or like a Lib Dem might want to give me to like sell the idea of why the cuts and raises in uni fees might be a good thing. This subject, especially in this day and age, is a big subject, so targeted subjects for interviews will be more inclined to take part and answer questions. So like students will be more inclined to answer questions about this because it's a quite big subject in the news and all over. Also, this is probably the first time that this documentary has been made by someone that they can relate to. So as I'm a fellow student, it will result in the likelihood to have a good amount of views from the audience. Weaknesses. As I feel so strongly about this subject, I might find it a bit hard to keep up my personal opinion because obviously I'm a human, I have emotions, so it might be quite hard to keep out my opinions, and also a lack of experience in documenting. And due to this, potential interviews I had planned, professionals may not want to comply, hindering the versatility in views. Opportunities. Opportunity for the opinions of the affected to be voiced on a higher platform. So like maybe, like for example, going back to the NUS, some people might not have been able to have their opinions voiced like on television because of obvious reasons. Also an in-depth look into maybe why the Conservative Party brought in these laws. So yeah, you get to look more into like why this coalition government brought in this law, because I don't think on the news it's actually been properly looked at into why. It's just been sort of a thing where they just throw it out, so we've had to deal with it. And also it could offer an opportunity to establish a sense of understanding between students and the government, and we can work together in unison with newfound knowledge of the subject. Threats. Threats of this documentary, it may, not intentionally, it may represent those involved in the documentary in a light they may not want to intend to look. So obviously some people might be influenced by an opinion that the person giving the opinion might not have been wanted to show. Dated facts, studies that may have been carried out maybe in like 2010 may have now been deemed to be obsolete. So like information that might not apply to 2013 but may have applied in 2010. And also, it could be a quite hard study trying to find a balance between enough information and the documentary becoming tedious. So maybe because my target audience is quite young, although I want to give enough information, I don't want to make it too tedious so it seems they forget the fact that it's someone a part of their audience giving the documentary, and it feels like, oh, it's just another politician giving this documentary. Moving on from this, my factual production influence. So basically, this graph was conducted by Bar with, and this table shows statistics showing factual programs share a substantial percentage in the market ranked in the top 30. With this, such a widespread subject such as uni fees, we'll be able to collide with this great production percentage, attracting a lot of viewers. Well, this link below, provided by the BBC News, shows that the recent rise in uni fees has hindered the amount of applications submitted by students or those looking to further their studies. Also, the leading, back to the point of the NUS, the leading party in opposition to the uni fee raises, NUS, Julius with their website, explaining their campaign along with other factors and issues that exist, such as ethnicity and race. So, like teaching the ethnic minorities how to stand out and speak out during interviews, and to beat maybe racism in whatever they want to do. In my interview techniques, as I intend to employ a variety of interviewees, I will also intend to be versatile with the questions asked. I've already touched on the fact that I wanted a mixture of students and adults, in bracket professionals. With the adults, I'll try and steer away from closed questions to adult interviewees, because I feel like closed questions sort of hinder exploiting the interviewee's knowledge. So like, maybe if you ask someone a closed question, you only get yes. If you answer a more open question, you'll be able to exploit their knowledge and get a proper insight into what they feel about the subject. And obviously, due to the fact that I'm like a youth, and not a lot of these professionals might not comply with doing interviews for people in the youth, like, it'll be a lost opportunity if I just ask like a Lib Dem a load of closed questions. I don't really get insight, so I feel like it'll be a lost opportunity if I don't exploit the fact that I'm interviewing a Liberal Democrat or a Conservative. Obviously, I'll be asking the students mandatory closed questions like, oh, are you going to uni? Are you going to uni this year? Because I think it just sets a tone and a structure for my interview. Because if I feel like if I find out that they're going to uni this year, then obviously they'll have an opinion as to whether if they weren't going to uni, which they probably won't really feel passionate about the subject because it doesn't really apply to them. Yeah, I've constructed a budget here with my production schedule. Yeah, my materials I'll be using the Sony A1E, and I feel that I think that's the platform that I'm most comfortable with, and I know how to record with. I've already shot some of my test footage with the A1E, and I was really comfortable with that, using the software on location, which I felt was the easiest I could use. So that's what I was going to use. Along with that, I was going to hire a tripod as well as a directional mic, because I feel like a directional mic picks up voice quite a lot, and I was now to my constraints. Costs. As my factual production may not be able to access the budgets that a professional platform may be able, I will now have the access to the perks that come with this, like such as professional standard effects like visual enhancers. But apart from equipment in the budget that I showed on the previous slide, everything else, such as hiring a graphic designer, all those things would be free because it would be done by myself. Time. Personally, my personal weakness is pre-production and getting all the pre-production done. So I decided to complete that separately along with this presentation, and I got this out of the way. So in result of this, I'm confident I'll be able to complete my factual production to the deadline despite some minor obstacles. Now the legal and ethical. The Ofcom Broadcasting Code of Relevancy states in Section 1, protecting under 18s material that may impair the physical, mental or moral development of people under 18 must not be broadcasted. And obviously this applies to my documentary, because I feel that I'll be able to keep away. As this subject is quite an academic subject, so it will be quite easy to steer away from all those by showing crime and stuff, because it really does focus on just strictly the academics. And Section 5 says that due impartiality, to ensure that news in whatever form is reported with due accuracy and presented with due impartiality. And I feel that I'll be able to comply to these rules, because I'll be attempting to employ a lot of facts and figures that have been published by the likes of, when I mentioned before, the BBC. So it's a lot of mainstream information that everyone has access to, and I feel like a platform like BBC News is quite reliable. So I feel that I'll be able to comply with these codes of relevancy provided by Ofcom. My Gantt chart here, I'll be looking to start I've already tried to start with my test footage. Started around on the 10th of December last year, and I'll be looking to finish by the 25th of March if all goes to plan. To conclude this, my documentary is just an insight into the different factors that surround uni, and I don't want to influence anyone's opinion, but I would just like to put across a few factors that maybe other documents haven't covered. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can ask. That's the end of my presentation.
Okay, any questions, anyone?
I think it's good that it's long overdue for somebody to actually bring a documentary that focuses on these issues. It's long overdue, but do you feel that this documentary will be, say, more of a statement of how the students feel, or do you feel that you have like people to retaliate to say some of the opinions that you hearing?
Yeah, because I feel like that's why when I mentioned in my secondary audience, it applied to also adults and professionals, because obviously they're going to have their opinion because they're a contributing factor, because they're the ones that are teaching us, they're the ones that are nurturing us. So I feel that, yeah, that sort of swayed the argument both sides if I don't just focus on students, because obviously students are not going to want to pay that much, but the adults and professionals might give their opinion and state why it's logical to have these cuts and raises. So I feel like, yeah, it sways both sides to the discussion.
Are you going to try and tailor people's responses to get some kind of output that you agree with, or are you just going to combine everyone's opinions and leave it open?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was mentioning in my previous slide, where I will be using I want to ask a lot of open questions. So like, I really want to exploit and look deeply into other people's opinions. That's why I feel like the only closed questions I'll be asking is to establish a relationship and understanding between the interviewee. Like, are you going to uni? Are you applying this year and stuff? And so yeah, apart from that, most of my questions will be open. So I'll be able to exploit a lot of the opinions, and I'll be able to understand fully the opinions of each person I interview.
Okay, so and in terms of that's in terms of questioning, but in terms of actually how you're going to edit it together, you're going to try and retain that openness.
Yeah. I'll be looking to retain that openness, because I don't think there'll be much point if I edit it to like suit what I think, because then what's the point in doing it for audience? I might as well do it so I can watch it to myself. I have to think about my audience, so that's why that's one of my key things to like retain that.
Any other questions?
Who are you going to be interviewing for this? I mean, you said students, but in terms of adults and things like that, what's your...
Well, I was looking to interview like a lot of teachers, so like around Talis, and then I was going to contact the mayor of Greenwich. I forgot his name. Pardon?
Is it not? Wait, I swear he was. He's a politician.
Yeah, but I had his email. So I was looking to contact people. I was trying to do hierarchical structure. So like even primary school teachers, I was going to go back to my old primary school up the road and get their opinion. So yeah, that's a sort of.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much.